Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Satsang, everyone. I see at least some of you got my message about the time change. I figured I would check yesterday, and much to my surprise, it was happening for Europe and East today. It doesn't happen for the U.S. or North America until next week, but. Thank you for making it. It is such a confusing thing. You may notice that's the water boiling that makes that little sound when it's done. A little bit of Bach to wake us up in the morning. I'm not in my place. I'm cat sitting for some friends that went out of town. So it's kind of like having an Airbnb. There's a beautiful view of the lake right over there, Lake Union. And two grand pianos in the living room, a Fazioli and a Bosendorfer, which are really nice pianos. So I sat down and played piano yesterday, which I probably haven't touched a piano. Well, I have a little keyboard that I got recently, but anyway, enough of that. It's all in the spirit of the title for today's satsang, because I've talked to several people lately, as I do. I mean, that's what I spend my days doing, and just noticing how hard people are on themselves, how hard you all are on yourself, right? I got to get it. I got to get it. There's this tension that kind of wells up, and even got an email from somebody yesterday. And there's just this pressure on us I've got to get it. I've got to understand. I've got to go beyond the person and be the self. And it's really not that hard. And in fact, if you take it too seriously, it's actually harder than it needs to be. So I'm inviting you all to just kind of let go. Forget about enlightenment. Forget about getting it. Forget about striving and struggling and thinking so hard that the veins are popping out of your neck. Just chill. Today, while we're in satsang, just forget about all of it. Because the truth is, enlightenment, awakening, whatever you want to call it, is just now. It's just being okay with your experience now. The idea of karma, right? Which is very important in both Hindu and Buddhist traditions. And it would seem as though Advaita would just kind of blow that away. It's all an illusion, it's all a dream and all of that. But it's not really quite like that. There's a momentum to our lives, isn't there? It's like it forms a pattern. And in fact, it does. There is a whole momentum. There's a whole energy behind every human life. And until some kind of consciousness awakens in the individual, you can pretty well predict what their life is going to be like, because it's just a bunch of repeating patterns. So the real key is you're not going to stop that, right? You're not going to stop the march of karma. You're simply going to start withdrawing from it. I've done a series of blogs on it. I've got actually one more installment of that I'm going to do on karma and what it is enlightenment. I like the way Anthony de Mello put it. He says enlightenment is total surrender to the inevitable. Right? There are going to be inevitable events that take place in our lives. And non-duality, if it's properly grasped, brings us into just a harmonious and surrendered state where the passing of these events that are inevitable in every human life don't cause us any suffering. They don't cause us any problems. I mean, Buddha didn't ascend up into heaven right? There's a couple of different versions of his death. One, he was poisoned, it was dysentery or something, but everybody dies from something, right? There's always an end. There's an end to everything we experience. And one of the most profound meditations one can do are some of the Buddhist meditations simply on death, on recognizing the fact that this is all impermanent, that you can't hold on to anything, nor can you resist anything. It's the other side of the coin. We got, especially in the West, we've gotten this idea over the last, probably 50 years or so, maybe longer. No, probably more than that. Going back to after World War II in the 50s, just this idea that it was supposed to be perpetual growth, perpetual bliss, that everything is just supposed to get better and better and better. And it's infected our spirituality. Like somehow spirituality is this magic key that's going to make life just absolutely wonderful and effortless. That by the kind of circumstances that we create or attract or whatever you want to call it. The fact of the matter is the circumstances of our life they're going to play out. They're going to play out according to the karmic pattern. They're going to play out to all of the energy that has been grinding along for millennia. Right? The question is, what's your relationship to that? Is it resisting? Is it trying to hold on to the good times and get rid of all the bad times? Or is it a sense of equanimity, of just, well, this is what's happening now, and the reason it's happening is because it needs to. It's just part of the pattern, and by your reacting to it, whether it be holding on to it or pushing it away, you're actually creating more. That is the energy that keeps Shiva's wheel turning. Our attachment to it or our aversion to it. When that's gone, when we just let it happen, it's like unplugging a fan. Right? The fan will eventually begin to slow down and then stop completely. Oh, our little friend the bot is back. Block user. Busy bots. So take it easy. Chill out, dude and dudettes. Have a laugh, right? Watch a stupid movie. Give yourself permission to enjoy this moment. Don't make non-duality the great quest that someday, off in the future, I'm going to be happy. It's not going to happen. It's being happy right now with exactly what it is. Cultivating this presence in this now that you're experiencing right this moment cannot possibly be anything other than what it is. Call it predestiny, call it karma, doesn't matter what you call it, right? There's just an infinite number of causes and conditions that get put in, that kind of grind along, right? And everything you experience is the result of the confluence of causes and conditions. And as Buddha referred to it as dependent arising, which meant that, as Nisargadatta put it, everything causes everything. There is no linear line you can point to. If I do this, then things are going to be different. That does not exist. Right? So just begin to truly start enjoying this moment, appreciating this moment for what it is, and even accepting the difficult times as just part of the necessity. It doesn't mean we don't do inner work. You just kind of throw it all out, but do it with the spirit of reconciling with life rather than trying to make it different. And that spirit is, believe it or not, it actually heals the deepest wounds, because in that environment of self-acceptance and life acceptance, that is the open space within us that allows all the wounds and traumas and patterns to come to the surface And if coming to the surface, you simply recognize them, be with them, be totally present with them, that part of the karmic energy that is made up with all of the traumatic events in our lives begins to dissipate. And we have a completely different relationship with everything. And that is true enlightenment. Right? That's the reality of enlightenment. It is this state in which you are so open that you're imperturbable, right? And humble. Something bad has happened, it makes sense. It had to happen, right? And is it really bad? Well, like a movie, every dramatic movie has comic moments in it, right? To help kind of move it along. And every comedy has dramatic moments in it, right? It all just depends on where they fade to black and say the end. It will determine whether it's a comedy and a drama. And your life, well, it is eventually going to fade to black and it'll be the end. But in between, it's not a series of movies. It's more like a soap opera. It just keeps going on and on and on. So it's neither a drama nor a comedy. It is simply the way life is unfolding. So I'm going to leave it for that. Leave that for now. Sorry, I'm a bit tired today, and as you can see, I came to this place to cat sit, and I forgot my brush. I forgot all my stuff, so I may look a little disheveled today, and I don't know why I'm getting this little thing around my head, but I am. So we'll just have to deal with it. So on that note, I'm going to just remind you to take it easy. Just relax right now. Just kind of sit back in your chair. All the questions, all the desires, that feeling I've got to get it. It isn't legitimate. It's just how your mind keeps you on the treadmill, keeps that carrot in front of you, as if enlightenment was something out there. If it is out there and it's achieved because of some result, well, then it can't be the real thing. Then it too is temporary. It comes and goes. And if it doesn't come and go, it means it's here now, right now. All right, my loves, let me go back and say hello to everyone. Hello, Rosario in Madrid. There's Merck, the other time zone challenged beings. There's Mary and Ava in Poland. There's John Sheehan clocking in from Ireland. Robbie in Romania. Ella's here. Hello, Ella. My Romanian in Florida, I believe, yeah. There's Hendrik in Germany. Brent. Hey, Brent in LA. There's John, having done the inward journey and realizing I'm not this, not that. I am. Anything more there, John? You kind of just cut off. Doesn't look like there's any more. Yes. You're not this, you're not that. Right? You're not anything in particular. And that doesn't mean you're nothing. You're just nothing in particular, right? It means you're not holding on to an identity, right? But identities come and go, right? We're always playing roles in every aspect of our life. We're always showing up as somebody. Right now, I'm a friend taking care of their cat, right? Which is quite enjoyable, right? And a nice break from my apartment, and fun doing satsang from someplace else, right? So I'm just being a friend, and satsang, I'm a teacher, and then I'll be back to being a cat sitter and doing some other things this afternoon. Maybe even be a piano player a little bit, because it's fun to play on a really nice piano. So there's nothing fixed. That's the whole message. There's nothing fixed, right? You're not anyone in particular. And it's so liberating to realize that. And then you'll notice how people, especially families, want to kind of put you into a role and leave you there. and they don't want you to come out of that. And this happens to all of us in our families. We can't, we have to take on a character that fits within the family. Everybody does it. We're not even conscious that we're doing it. But then later on, it solidifies into a sense of self, and we have all these beliefs and assumptions and ideas about ourselves that are simply not true. They're not permanent characteristics. They're simply an adaptive response to a temporary circumstance, right, that got stuck. And awakening is simply the great unsticking. That's all it is. You awake to the fact that none of these identities have ever been you, and none of them ever will be, which frees you to be whoever you want, whenever you want. Or more, it's not really even kind of a conscious choice. It frees the whole energy system to show up in every circumstance in the most beautiful and intelligent and creative way. It also allows us to drop all our positions about what should be or should not be happening. And oddly enough, by not taking a position, you find a place where the rightness and wrongness of things is actually not relative. That you find absolute values like love, wisdom, truth, beauty. That they're not transient. There are values that are not transient. There's an underlying value that is not transient, that manifests itself in different ways over time and in various cultures. The very same fundamental truth can put on all sorts of different costumes and remain that fundamental essential truth. And this is the great discovery. And that's you. You can put on all the costumes you want, and you will always be that fundamental essential truth. So there was more to that, John. I'm happy to comment, but thank you for that. Merck, isn't it actually something deeply disturbing, or maybe liberating, about the whole debacle we have to go through twice every year? It always bugged me more than what can be practically justified. I agree. I don't see the point of it. I'm not really sure why it even happened, right? And became a worldwide phenomenon. It's not really necessary. It's my favorite quote from the Native Americans. Only a white man can cut a foot off of a blanket, sew it on the other blanket, and think he has a longer blanket. a little Native American sarcasm. Hello, Dorte in Denmark. People are showing up. Yay. Andrew, hi G. Do you think dementia, as perceived in someone by others, might in any way be connected to coming across one's true nature, and as a result, being able to function at the material level? No, I don't think it's that, because usually you see, well, always you see the sages, even when they're very physically challenged. Somebody like Robert Adams, who had Parkinson's disease, you could still see the clarity in their eyes, and what they could communicate was absolutely lucid and clear. I think what happens is, like anything, look, we all have to get used to the fact that our faculties are going to sag. I am not as quick-witted as I used to be. I still have some of the humor left, but nothing like what it used to be. My body doesn't shed weight in the gym like it used to, and things in the gym take longer these days. I mean, it's just the way it is. This is part of how it needs to be this way, so that we will let go of our sense of clinging to any idea of permanence. When we see it, there's nothing permanent. It's just a constant letting go. Life is about letting go, not holding on to anything. The person experiencing dementia is still pure consciousness, right? Only experiencing through a malfunctioning set of faculties. That's all it is, right? It's not actually all that much different than the cat I'm hanging out with, the cat I'm sitting with. It doesn't really know where it is. It's just completely harmonious with life. It doesn't have any concepts, right? And so nobody expects it to be anything other than that. So the person with dementia who's just kind of losing those faculties and memory and all the other stuff, we're all going to lose that, by the way, right? You know, before death or after, it's going to happen. None of us remember our past lives, right? Thank God. I mean, I got enough to deal with this one. I don't want to have to be processing all of the, you know, I don't know how many thousands of them there've been, but it's troubling not to the person, right? It's only troubling for the people around them, because the person they knew is gone, right? And at some point, the whole body will be gone as well. But the person they knew and loved and interacted with isn't there anymore. They're gone. And so they have to connect on a completely different level. The last time I saw my mother, those of you know the story of that. We were not close, but the last time I visited her was not long before she died, and she kept thinking I was my son. Where's your father? Where's your father? Right? She'd kind of lost touch with a lot of stuff. It wasn't all the time. My sister, who lived closer by there, visited her more often. And she had moments of being quite lucid, but there were times where she's just kind of like, you know, in between worlds, just in between worlds. And what are you going to do? You just have to kind of, it's troubling for us looking at it. It's not troubling for them. Right? We have to remember that. And everybody's going to have the experience of losing their faculties in one way or the other. And so I think at a time like that, it may actually be possible, if there is a way to communicate, it's possible that the Dharma could sink in more quickly, because there won't be a lot of mental resistance to it or arguing with it. Right? So yeah, it's so interesting trying to accept life as it actually is, in all of its facets, because it doesn't seem like it makes any sense. Why should it be like this? Well, if you're going to have the ultimate bliss, you're also going to have the ultimate loss. It's just the way it is. This is the yin yang. You cannot have one without the other, which is why we have to be so surrendered with this moment right now, and recognizing it for the beautiful thing that it is, the incredibly, extraordinarily beautiful thing that it is, because there's no other moment in all of time and space like this one. And it's gone in an instant. Right? Thank you, Andrew. I hope that was helpful. I know I'm kind of like wandering off places today, but that's I don't have dementia, so I'm not really focusing. Focus is a little off today. Dale, good to see you. Good to see you. Lindsay, GP, so happy to be here with you. So happy you're here. So happy you're here. Playon in Sweden. Hello, Playon. Merck, guess that we can just change the present time arbitrarily at will. What kind of points to a bit too obvious that what is deeply shaping all of my thinking and feels like it really isn't. I'm quite sure. Guess most, if not all, of my beliefs, just what some wise guy made up at some point as a hopefully practical conceptual overlay, not to be taken literally. Like I don't believe the bots. Chill. Yes, that's exactly what it is. You know, ideas that came up, they may even been useful at a certain time, right? But they get stuck like everything else. And it's simply the human nature. We want to hold on to things because it makes us feel safe, right? And then we get really upset when they change, which they inevitably will. And we'll get really grabby, and we try to make power structures to keep them in place, right? Because and now we invent gods, right? So it's not, well, this just is my opinion. This is what God wants. God wants us to have slaves. God wants us to own women, right? Everything to try to avoid the inevitable, which is things change. And it's very, very funny. And it is really, it's not completely arbitrary. It grows out of the conditions, but the beliefs, the assumptions, the things that kind of sink in and take root are just the result of causes and conditions in a particular time in a particular place. And when you get a nice look at it, you see that it is part of our ongoing search for stability by manipulating circumstances, where the only stability, the only safety, the only place where you're going to find the changeless is here. The essence is changeless, and it manifests itself in constant change. That's what life is perpetual change. So much fun. Hello, David and Lane. Sean, why don't I laugh at the cosmic joke? Even if I think I get it, it's because I still think I can be hurt by the joke or hurt at all. Pretty much. I guess I feel like it's kind of a mean joke sometimes. Yes, that's what it feels like. It can feel that way. And if you feel that way, then it's time to just kind of look closer, right? Because there's some part of you that isn't surrendered to the moment, that still believes that somehow it's all supposed to be this perpetual bliss. The perpetual bliss is when there's no more resistance to life as it is. Then it's blissful, and it is perpetual, but it's not the emotional high, right? And so you get it. I know you get it. We've had conversations. You do understand it. That understanding is there. So now it's a matter of really gradually, gently surrendering to it, right? So that you can go, why aren't I laughing at the cosmic joke? Well, that's interesting because I still think I'm going to get something out of it. I still think it's supposed to be better than it is, right? It's supposed to be more to my liking. And that's where you go into look at the I. Oh, to whose liking? Because when you do that, you find that that sense of I is constructed out of opinions and assumptions and beliefs and ideas, and that there's nothing really there. There's no self in it. It's just a bunch of programs, right? And one of those programs happens to be a lot of preferences for this or that, right? And when it doesn't get its preferences met, it's unhappy. When it gets them met, it's happy. And this is the emotional roller coaster that most people mistake for themselves. Okay? So it's a wonderful opportunity to look at that I that hasn't surrendered. Okay? And recognize that it is a function of the nervous system. It's not you. It is not the true I, but a place where you have yet to scrutinize and see, oh, there's nothing there. There's no one there. It's Siri. It's the robot. And then you'll really get the joke. You'll really get the joke. And yes, recognizing that that's the case, there's a part of us that gets afraid. Oh my God, what happens? Am I going to end up homeless? Am I going to lose everything? Is my wife going to leave me? Are my kids going to disown me? Right? All of those thoughts come. And it's a great opportunity to explore the me that is experiencing that, or rather, yes, the me that you are experiencing life through. That foggy lens through which you are seeing life. Thank you, Sean. Hello, Ursula in Portugal. Maria. Hello, Maria. We need this beautiful reminder regularly. Thank you. Yes, we really do. You know, even me, I go, oh, I got to do this. And I got, there's a lot of stuff I have to do, business wise, right? To keep the lights on and keep doing this stuff. And it's like, and I go, oh, wait, gee, chill out. Geez, chill out. It's like, yeah, that's right. That's right. The burden's not on me. I'm just kind of following the lead, right? So yes, we all need it. Facebook users. Hi, GPN, everyone. Some teachers invoke the "it's all God's dream" analogy to explain or describe consciousness and its activity. I got a problem with this. If I have a dream at night that someone goes into a store, robs the register, and shoots the cashier, when I wake up, I realize that none of this has happened. There are no consequences. It was just the activity of my own mind in the sleep state. But if someone does that in the waking state, there are consequences. There's an empty register. Did you continue this somewhere? Register ... Yes. Yes, indeed. This is one of the problems that has arisen because of the glut of information about non-duality and the various ways in which it's taught. Because while it's true, it's not the kind of that should not be lesson 1 in first grade, right? One has to come to that. One has to start by simply, in my experience, what is actually happening and what is just my perception of happening. And we begin to lose all of the ideas and assumptions and opinions that we have projected on life and its experiences. And at the moment of death, this will be nothing but a dream to you that will fade from your memory, as has every life in the past. It will not seem to have the same kind of solid reality to it. However, in the midst of it, there are consequences. When I do something, there is a result to it. If I hurt someone, if I do something and someone gets hurt, I'm responsible for that. This isn't an excuse. This isn't a get out of jail free card, right? It is a very deep and very, very subtle pointing that's not a beginner's pointing. It's something that you have to sit with and meditate through for quite a while, but even have to be prepared before you can even begin to approach something like that. So it's much better to simply begin to come to terms with the way things are, including there are consequences. Right? If I do something, there's a result from that. I'm playing in the world of cause and effect until I have come to transcend it. But that transcendence, remember, transcendence is a subsuming, right? It isn't. You don't get rid of it. The higher always absorbs the lesser, which means the sage always acts morally, always acts kindly, because they are completely aware of the consequence of absolutely everything they do. And that the absence of that awareness, right, is what causes what's going on in the world right now. The person who does that, who robs the liquor store and steals the money or shoots the cashier, right, needs to become conscious of the consequences of their own actions and the pain that it is causing. If they do, they're not going to do it. That's wisdom. That's where wisdom and heart, the head and heart, come together. Because if I really see the consequences of my own actions, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. There's nothing more that builds wisdom better than looking at something you've done to somebody else that's had really negative consequences and you can't undo it. When you really see that, people you've hurt or betrayed or worse, when you really see it and it really hits you right in the heart, there's a level of remorse that happens that simply makes it impossible for you to do that again. You may even go through a period of self-punishment and torment and the like, maybe for several lifetimes, until you can finally come to the understanding of it, of what makes that happen, and that it is all a result of our unconsciousness. And so something like that, it would be very rare under the circumstances, very rare circumstances where I would be using that analogy, even though it's actually true. But as you can see, if that's misunderstood, it becomes amoral. It opens up the door for the most reprehensible kind of behavior, and even gives it a justification. And you'll see that, you'll see gurus hitting on their young female students, right? Notice it's always the pretty young ones that need the extra boost for enlightenment. Isn't that odd? And you'll see teachers exploiting their students and things like that. It's repulsive, but they've got this sense that it doesn't matter, right? Even some you may have heard of, right? They've got this sense that, well, it's all an illusion anyway, right? And this is part of their karma. It's like it can get so twisted, which is why I teach it the way I do, and why I also engage in energy healing and helping people process through trauma and wounds and to become conscious, right? To really come to the level of understanding, which is where you have real forgiveness and real transformation and real wisdom that walks gently, just ever so gently and harmlessly through life. So, teachings like that without the proper preparation are irresponsible. and really need to be delivered in context. The times I have talked about things like that, I've gone to great lengths to put it in context, and I don't do it all the time. Right? It really has to be understood correctly. So I hope that answers it for you, Facebook user. Yeah. Oh, that's a big lesson for everyone, by the way. I mean, it's, wow. I mean, it's, on one hand, it's wonderful that, you can get on YouTube and get 100,000 videos from different kinds of teachers on stuff that nobody had even heard of, 10, 20 years ago. Good Lord, I'd never heard, kid growing up in the Midwest in the 50s and 60s, I'd never heard the word enlightenment, awakening, yoga, right? And now it's just everywhere. And it's great. But this is the remember, this used to be secret teachings, and in some traditions, you spent 12 years with a master before you even hear these things, let alone get the practices to be able to approach them. We don't do that anymore. Not 12 years, right? 12 seconds, not this one. On to the next teacher, right? And so a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or taste not the Pyrean springs. I don't know who wrote that, but it's apropos. And hearts and prayers to you, and namastes to you, Maria. Thank you. Hello, Patricia. Always wonderful to have you here. Mary, excellent introduction. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't feel very articulate today for whatever reason. It must be my hair. That's it. I wasn't able to actually properly, it's affecting my mind. That must be it. Okay. See, got it all explained now. Isn't that great? I have an explanation for it, and now I feel safe. Doesn't have to be true. I just have to believe it. Merck, yes, thanks for the very timely reminders. They're very fortunate for those of us feeling lost in the complexity, trying to duke it out with reality and not take it easy and go on rants. Yes, laugh a lot. Sir, laugh a lot. Yeah, please. This is This is a liberation, right? Not an ordeal. Please. So, I love the picture. The awakened self is aware that the false self thinks and can control the awakening process. There is no awakening process, for the awakened self is already awake. We love identifying, though. Yes, this is a deeper place to go when you're ready for it. And that is, the witnessing consciousness is pure. The act of identifying, of thinking, of even the process one could call of awakening or enlightenment is all being witnessed by something that isn't going through any of it. Okay? This actually relates to what the Facebook user was talking about. God, whose dream is this? Right? And it is a very deep and useful question to ask when it's properly prepared. This is not the kind of thing that the mind can approach and logically work out, even though you can. It makes perfect sense. Instead, what's best is to simply sit with that sense of witnessing, noticing everything that is witnessed isn't the witness of it. It's a meditation. It's an inner exploration. It's self-inquiry, right? I am witnessing. Right? And however subtle, whatever is witnessing is happening in front of me. It's coming and it's going. So even the act of identifying, even the experience of awakening is an event that I am witnessing. So this pure witness, right? What is that? Right? And it's a contemplation. What is that? Right? You're not going to reason that out and come up with some kind of morality or system, right, that can then approximate that and try to embody it in human life and rules and things like that, which oftentimes people will do. They'll get a spiritual idea and they say, well, how do I act this out in my life? And come up with ways of doing it. It's not completely wrong. It's not completely off, but it is kind of missing the point. Because if I can see myself as the pure witness, then everything is simply arising in front of me. And it's not an act of will. I'm not doing something, right? It's like, not that nothing's being done, but even the doing is being witnessed, right? By that pure witness. Preferences is being witnessed by that. Beauty and ugliness are both being witnessed by that. This is the pure, absolute awareness that is beyond time and space. Even time and space are witnessed by this. And if you are witnessing that pure awareness, then what are you? That's a question that comes out of the mind and right into the heart. Then who am I? Okay. Can I admit to myself what it is I really am? Can I handle my own emptiness? Most, no. It takes some preparation to actually be able to confront your own emptiness, your own perfection, your own complete stillness, your own Buddha nature, the God within. It takes preparation and time and gentleness and patience and the like. And then you begin, and then you see with your heart that what you're saying here is true. There is no awakened self because nothing awoke, right? The awakening is a theme. It's an experience, right? That plays out over multiple lifetimes, right? Because as Balyani said, God takes the last step on the journey that never happened, right? It's deeply mystical and deeply profound, right? So even the awakening is something that's being witnessed. joyously. Every bit of it, every touch of it, every yin and yang of it, every bit of the opposites, right, is being witnessed by this stillness. And it's aware of the thoughts going on, the flow of thoughts that are just simply arising on this infinite sea of being, and the thought that there's someone thinking them, that there's someone who is awakening. And for that, there's no awakening process. You're absolutely right. It is not the awakened self. It is not the sleeping self. It just is the pure isness, the pure suchness, the pure reality. And what is witnessing that pure reality? What is it that can even look and say the things that you're saying right now? and recognize that they are true. What is that? It's even subtler, isn't it? Thank you, Sue. This is that's quite beautiful. That's quite beautiful. We love identifying. Yes, even the identification is being witnessed. And it's part of, it's only when identification is not aware that it's identifying and gets stuck in an identity. That's it. We identify all the time, right? The fact that we can speak without having to think about it means it's like I'm inhabiting this body. I've taken it on as my own. A long time ago, I did some kayaking, and the river kayaking, and the river kayaks are different than the ocean ones. They're smaller, and they really fit tight around you, and you kneel in them, and then the side of your legs go against the side. And after a while, you become one with it. You're identified with the little boat, right? You feel like a duck, right? Because the tiniest little movements, and it's all responding. It's like I extended my body. It's the same thing when you see a little kid walking and stuff, or when they see their hands for the first time. The consciousness is inhabiting. It's taking this on. I mean, at first, the kid can't find his own mouth with a spoon, right? All over themselves. But eventually, you do, until you're stupid and you spill something on yourself. But this is part of the identification. You do it with your car. Nobody thinks about, once you get the hang of it, you're putting on makeup, you're sipping on your coffee, you're talking on the phone, right? Well, hopefully hands-free, but you get it, right? This is part of it. It's just something arises that wants to hold on to an identity, that wants to freeze it, right? But even that's being witnessed. And that arising is what makes all of this, creates the suffering, right? And it is the creation of the suffering that alerts us to, oh, I've gotten stuck. I'm taking this identity as actually having some permanence to it. Okay. So, and who's aware of that? So the identification is simply yet another function that is happening, and there isn't actually anybody doing the identification. That's a fun one. Thank you, Sue. Existential dread. I should get some existential dreads. What do you think? No, you can't do that with white hair. It just looks too weird. Hi from Scotland. Anyway, sorry. I didn't mean to make fun of your name. It's really a great name, especially with the cat face, the black cat face. By the way, happy Halloween to everyone, which is tomorrow. I don't know if you celebrate that everywhere. At least in the U.S. And namaskar, brother. Same to you, Facebook user. Nikki Johnson, greetings. Johansson, greetings from Sweden. Wow, wonderful. You look. Is it true that all cats are enlightened? No, they're not enlightened. Right? They're just a beautiful example of for us of what it's like to simply be completely in the present moment. Right? They're not self-aware, right? You are their self-awareness. So ultimately, you'll see that they're just another aspect of yourself, the cat aspect of reality, as opposed to the dog aspect or the gerbil or the cockroach. They're all it's all various combinations of the of various aspects of consciousness, forever combining and recombining over and over, making form upon form upon form, none of which has inherent existence. It is all an appearance of this fundamental substance. And one of the most beautiful fundamental beautiful forms it takes is that of a cat. Because they're just, as dogs as well, they're completely in the moment. And you can watch them get extremely upset about something, right? Or get in a fight or something, and they're all in, right? They're not holding anything back. But then when it's done, the danger is past. They're just basking out in the sun. They don't hold on to it. That's why we can look at them like Zen masters. They don't hold on to anything. We do. And that's what causes all the trouble, especially in the nervous system. That's what causes all the stress, because of our minds, we hold on to things rather than just letting them pass through. There's more to it than that, but that's just basically it. But they're a reminder that our natural state is like a cat. Okay? So they're a nice mirror for us. Maybe they are, though. Maybe they are enlightened. They've just come back here, and they have conversations amongst themselves about these humans. Jesus, they're never going to get it. Could be. And maybe the rats in all the labs are actually taking notes on us. Robbie, with everything that's happening in the world right now, should we take some sort of internal responsibility for our individual actions? Or should we detach and leave it be, let it unfold itself? Both. There's an inner attachment that will result in wise action. And so it isn't a one or the other. It isn't choose this or one from column A, two from column B. There needs to be a certain detachment so that we don't take a side so strongly that we polarize, which is exactly what's happening. People are taking these really extreme positions, right? And the more afraid we get, the more the societies and institutions decay, excuse me, the more intense that becomes. And so there's a detachment that is not quick to take a position and is open to seeing why people take the position that they do. When you understand that, you can see the operation of the unconsciousness that results in the world that we're experiencing. You can see the patterns of thought that have evolved over thousands of years. I mean, what we're seeing now is the culmination of what happened when we moved out of the hunter and gatherer phase and into agriculture, and the formation of cities and specialization and the complexity and hierarchy and all sorts of stuff that emerged out of that. It didn't have to emerge that way, right? It could have gone in a different way, but this is the way it is. And we're now seeing it on a global scale of the consequences of it. And yet people think it's going to be a little tweak here and there. This is the shift of an epoch, right? It's a complete leveling. It's a completely new world is being born. And the process by which that happens is what we're seeing. So if you see it from that perspective, and you'll see that it's a bunch of conflicting stories, right? And all these stories are vying to be the next story that organizes culture and society around. And of course, but in the age of mass media, there's thousands of stories. We are confronted with literally thousands of stories every day. Every meme is a story. It's a perspective, that that is lobbying for it to be accepted as the correct one. And there's like similarities and the like, but you realize that what's happening is no story is winning. It's all breaking down, and the only story that will remain is simply yourself in the midst of chaos, right? Because it's totally chaotic at this point. Now, what that means is that you coming to that, seeing that, there's the opportunity in every single circumstance to reach for the best that that circumstance can do. And for me, what is the best is always what is the most loving. That's it. What is the most loving thing under the circumstances? Right? Because the circumstances may not provide the opportunity for perfect love, for a perfect, beautiful, harmonious thing to happen, right? But if that's my motivation, I'm going to be looking for whatever it is that notches it up. And that also allows me to be critical, gently but strongly critical of that which is not loving. And you'll hear me talk about that. Right? I think our economic system is not loving. It is not made for human beings, and we should dump it. And I can say that because I can understand where it came from, how we got to this point. It's not really anybody's fault. And it's not even anybody's fault that people are holding on to positions, even though it's destructive to the whole planet. I mean, that's a kind of insanity. I mean, my third quarter profits, right, are more important than the destruction of life on Earth. Right? Now that's, I mean, for any individual human being to confront that, we're all super beings at this point, right? That was not, so, you know, the welfare of the realm was not even thought about by anybody except, you know, kings and queens and the like. Now everybody's, no, man, it's all of us, right? We're all in this now, right? All of us have to deal with it. And it's like, wow, when you really think about it, you know, we're ordinary folks. We're the peasants, right? We're the serfs thinking about the state of the world. That's actually pretty remarkable. So to be willing to approach it from this kind of a spiritual perspective, which is open and wise and compassionate, and at the same time being willing to take action where you can, and when the opportunity arises, and that action is wise and compassionate. And sometimes there's nothing you can do, and you just kind of, you know, bless and move on. It's really quite a staggering place we all find ourselves. And it is in a situation like this that awakes in us that deep desire to know what's true. Because it's like essential for all of us now. This isn't something we can leave up to, you know, oh, I elected him, let him do the job. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. We're all sitting in the seat now, which is really amazing. So how's that, Robbie? Robbie in Romania. Play on. Thank you for that intro, GP. I think we all need to hear that now and then. Everybody chill the fuck out. Yep. Amen. Amen. I have to remind myself too. I'm, you know, for the longest time, after that, my night on the bridge at 19, I was just constantly doing, I'd spend 10 hours in the practice. I just ate and drank and slept music for the longest time. And I got into my late 20s, really up into my 50s, I only slept 4 hours a day. I didn't need anything more. I mean, I would go to bed at midnight, wake up 4 a.m. And I do my meditation. That was metaphysical prayer at the time. It then became meditation. And I'd be at the gym and I'd work. It was like all day long. I never stopped. I still have more energy than most, although it's, my kids have commented about, Jesus, Dad, how did you do that? You were just like just like this endless flow of energy. And I had to learn how to just, especially as I got older, and I couldn't do quite as much as I did. I just kind of like, how do you chill? How do you do that? It wasn't as if I was forced, it was like I was driven. It was just kind of this energy, and I was just doing stuff. Well, chill. How do you chill? Well, sit, and I like documentaries and satirical comedy now, and historical documentaries. I watched one last night about William the Conqueror. Oh yeah, okay. Or hanging out with a cat. We're just taking a walk, right? Enjoying the wonderful cloudy, cold fall that you have here up in the Pacific Northwest. So find those little things that are just for you, right? That you do simply because you enjoy doing them, right? Which is actually what I do, why I do Satsang. I love doing this. Even when I don't feel 100% up to snuff and my hair is just not right, I still love doing it. Chill the fuck out. Yeah. Namaste, everyone. Portland. Yay, Portland Thorns. A Facebook user. I don't know what sport that is. Sorry. David and Elaine, we've talked many times about the I am, and that beyond this is ultimately the absolute. Can the absolute be known in any sense? Or is that we can only be it? Many thanks. It can't be known. Anything that's known is an object, isn't it? In that sense, right? It always requires some kind of a delineation, right? Anything to be known in the normal way we think of knowing there's got to be two. Otherwise, it's not known. So the absolute cannot be known in that sense. But yet you know that you are, right? You're aware that there's something that's aware of even of the sense I am, the most subtlest, more subtle than thought or emotion or sensation. Is this, it's like space itself. You're aware of space itself. And there's something that's aware of that. But at this point, we don't even have words to say something. It's not a thing. It's not an it. It's not a he or she. It has no attributes whatsoever. That's why Buddha called it no self, or shunyata, emptiness, absolute emptiness. Right? And yet it is. And that is its only characteristic. It is existence itself. It is being itself. And so the being, though, is not like the existence of a rock or a cup or something, right? It knows that it is. And this is the great understanding, the non-dual understanding, is that the knowing and the being are one and the same. That the knowing of yourself is your being. The knowing of, which means, in all experience, the knowing of anything is its existence. The knowing gives existence or shines its existence on everything. There's no thing without it being known. The knowing and the thing are one. The knowing of this and this are one and the same. They're not two. This is the infinite universal theme of being and knowing. Sat Chit. And you could even throw in Ananda, right? As translated as bliss, but it's simply just the ultimate peace of knowing. So it's not just knowing, it's knowing, right? You could think of the being and knowing and feeling. You could even, right? But it's not something that is felt. It is just it's not even an experience. I can't talk about it. The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. And yet you see it everywhere. Everything is that. Everything is the manifestation of that. So the universe is a mirror, right? But this is a different kind of mirror. It's not a mirror that something is looking into. That would be two. Right? It is a mirror that is completely within itself. I run out of words. I run out of words. You are it. It is what is hearing my words right now, is the absolute. It cannot be known, cannot be spoken, cannot be approached. And what is it that you know that cannot be spoken or known or approached? You. You alone. You can't know yourself. You've never seen your own face. What's your experience of yourself? Right? Thoughts, sensations, emotions, memories, associate all these kinds of things. But then you get right to that which is aware of those. There's just this knowing, a knowingness. And so, it cannot be known in any sense other than the singularity of knowing and being. And so the two are one. And the traditional, the conventional way of thinking of knowing, it can't. It does not apply. Thanks, guys. Andrew, thanks, GP. I'm hoping to hang on to my faculties at the end. It may have been Osho who said it's important to be alert and attentive at the moment of death. Cheers. Yes, if you're cultivating, obviously dementia has a cause that's contributed to, an unconscious life, right? Somebody like Robert Adams is such a great example because he was a fully enlightened guy that was recognized by Ramana. And he had Parkinson's disease and had a very difficult time communicating, but his consciousness was untouched because he hadn't associated consciousness with the functioning of the body. And as such, you recognize that creativity and intelligence and astuteness and lucidity and clarity are all aspects of consciousness that cannot decay, no matter what happens to the body. And so by exercising that and this kind of precise and devoted self-inquiry will virtually eliminate the possibility. Because that even steps outside the realm of karma. Because karma can go and it has nothing to do with you. Whatever happens in the body, it has nothing to do with you. John, thanks, GP. I was getting a bit too serious about awakening. Yeah, God damn it, when am I going to wake up? It's to be in this moment is to be enjoyed. It's refreshing to know I can show up as what's needed at the time. Great relief. Yeah, there's no preparation needed, right? It really is. I'm not kidding. I call this the lazy path. This is the lazy path, right? You don't need to work. You don't need to work so hard, right? And you can tell when it doesn't mean that it's lackadaisical or it's imprecise or you're not really devoted, right? It's a different kind of energy that pops up because in the inquiry, even when it's a struggle and the mind's going nuts, there's still a joy in it. There's I'm right in the midst of it. It isn't effortful feeling, right? There's an energy behind it, right? Whereas if it starts getting really heavy, you know that the ego's grabbing onto something, trying to make something happen, rather than simply becoming the witness, the witnessing. Right? And notice even that, the heaviness is there now. Right. The ego wants to bring me back into, duking it out with with unconsciousness. So great. Thanks, GP Rock. Thank you, Sean. David, my abusive childhood made the religious adults around me uncomfortable because it proved their God isn't protecting anyone. So I was always told you must be doing something wrong. Oh, God. So I always thought my experiences were wrong until I heard your intro. It's about being okay with your experience. This is the way my life went. Yes. It really didn't have anything to do with you, right? Our life, look at everybody's life. Take a kid in any family, stick him in a different family, and you'll get a different kid. Yes, there will be some similarities. We bring there's some natural tendencies and stuff that is unique to every single individual. But how that develops, what that blossoms into, will completely depend upon the environment that they're in. A kid who's an A student, and the president of his class in one family could be a juvenile delinquent in another, right? I was both, actually. Yeah, isn't that interesting? But that's what happens, right? Take a promising child, put him in the hands of dull parents, and you're going to get a child that is not able to grab onto what its potential is. Recognizing that, right? And we don't recognize it at the time, of course, right? We recognize that there's a certain inevitability about the experiences that we've had due to all of the causes and conditions that came together. How your parents were, which was a result of how their parents were, this long line of causality, right? And then we pop up in this particular environment, and I bring my own, my unique kind of characteristics, as every individual has. Every individual is a unique set of, because that's what makes them an individual. That's why we're not assembly line. You put all of that together, and what are you going to get? Exactly what you got. Now, the new factor that's entered into the picture now is conscious. You become conscious of this process happening, right? And it's been going on for thousands of lifetimes, right? And you weren't conscious of it happening. You're just, and now you are. And now you can look at it and go, oh, there's no way that couldn't have been experienced just like that. And there's not really anybody to blame for it, because their experience couldn't have been any way other than that. But this new ingredient of consciousness takes you out of that. And now you're suddenly looking at it. You're feeling it in the body. It's in the experience. It's in all the stuff around you. But now there's the new element is, okay, there's just this momentum going on, but I'm more than that. Way more than that. Which at some point even allows you to begin to change this to a certain degree. But of course, that doesn't happen until you no longer need to. Where it no longer matters. I think it was Brown, I can't remember his first name now, said, with enlightenment does come the power to move mountains, but also comes the wisdom that the mountain's fine right where it is. What do I need to do with it? The wisdom to be able to make just the tiny little adjustments or not, right? That is the gift, right? And that's the freedom. So that's how you become okay with your experience, even though it sucked mud. Right? Mine sucked mud. But now I look at it, I go, this inevitable. The experience I had as a kid was inevitable. It's the way it went. And the end result was all sorts of things that I thought were totally horrible and unfair and unjust, but eventually led me to this. Well, now how can I complain? It was worth it. It was worth it. Right? So, and now I'm okay with it. Not because I got out with it. I got to this point because I became okay with it. I saw, oh, this is just what happens. There was just, it couldn't have been any other way. Not because it was predestined or anything like that. There was no overlord, manipulating things like a bunch of puppets, because it was simply the confluence of causes and conditions. And one of the most beautiful things as awakening develops is the Buddha's, at least in one tradition, Buddha's awakening happened when he saw that even causes and conditions were just a projection of the mind. Right? And I won't go into that now. Right now, just be okay with the causes and conditions, because there's a place even beyond them. So thank you, David. Thank you, said Facebook user. You're welcome. Robin Pepper, thank you, GP. Beautiful message today, as always. Much love. Oh, thank you, Robin. What a happy name, Robin Pepper. I like that. I like that. Brent, we're so grateful that you show up every week for us, regardless of how you're feeling. So much love and appreciation for you. Oh, thank you. Existential dread. How can I be sure that reincarnation is real and that it won't all end in oblivion? Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. It's a question. Is there anything after this life? When I experience what we call death, will anything remain after that? Now, if in fact nothing does, you'll never get an answer to the question, because you won't be there to get it. You go, oh, right, now there's nothing. There's oblivion. Well, you won't be there, right? So if the answer is it's oblivion, you're never going to know it. You're gone, right? True nothingness. Okay, so you can wait till you're dead, and if you find out, well, then you've got your answer. And if you don't, well, you're not going to have an answer. So because people have had near-death experiences and like, those can be explained away, and somebody else having something that isn't enough to convince you, right? So I look at, like any scientist would, certain things we can't see. You can't see atoms and the like, right? How do we know they're there, right? You cannot see them. We've come up with various kinds of models to infer it, right? Because we see the way things behave, and so we infer that there's some kind of substance there. We don't even know what it is, right? Because it's weird. It's very strange, right? It doesn't have any kind of characteristics. It doesn't seem to be governed by space and time and that sort of thing. So it's nothing that can be experienced directly. And so it's all by reason and inference that we come to these conclusions. And we accept this as fact, right? Now, what about this question about being alive after you die, short of actually dying and finding out? Well, what I do is I, like a scientist, I simply look at what I do know. What have I got here? And when I examine, I look at everything that's constantly changing, and I see, well, death isn't just a moment in time for this body. This body is dying and being reborn all the time, right? Cells are dying all the time, right? But a million a second being dying and reborn again, right? Because there's trillions here. I'm also seeing a change over time. I don't look like I did 10 years ago or 40 or 50 years ago. Right? So I see all of this changing, right? Which says, okay, things are constantly being born and dying. This is a cycle that isn't just a life, it's life within life. Right? Relationships and friendships and jobs and likes and dislikes come and go, right? Phases of life come and go, right? I remember my kids as kids, right? Now they're grown men, right? Getting gray hair. heading towards white. And you go, oh, they're not the same, right? They've never been the same. Watching my grandchildren grow up and that sort of thing. All right, so all of that would point towards this ending, right? But then I go, but wait a minute. There is something in the midst of all of this that hasn't changed. There has, and you look really closely, there's been while all of this has been changing dramatically, there's been something there that's been aware of all the changing that doesn't seem like it has changed. It's just absolutely changeless, which is the awareness of these events itself. You can think back at 5 years old or 10 years old or 20 years old or wherever it is, and was the actual act of experiencing any different? Oh, no, it wasn't. So there is something that simply has not changed. From that, I infer that it was there before this life appeared, which is this constant change, and it will be there after it's gone. There'll still be something there because it's been here the whole time and it hasn't changed. That gives me a lot of confidence in it. And then you hear people with near-death experiences, or people who had plant medicine have similar kinds of experiences, and some people just have awakening experiences out of nowhere, like I did, and you just go, oh, right, no, this is a blip in time, and it has kind of a dreamlike quality to it, although it feels very solid and real. You see, this is constantly coming and going, but I'm not. And then the notion, at least even on a rational level, becomes quite reasonable that this is going to be the case. So there you have it. And taking that in, but coming to terms simultaneously with the impermanence that this life is going to change. It's not like this is just disposable, then I don't really care about this life, I'm just going to go on anyway. It actually makes this moment precious. So this life, just as it is, in all its uniqueness, in all of its temporariness, becomes something to be loved, to be cherished. It actually makes you more present in this life. And even if there isn't anything after this, how about being present? Be this one fully then. Just be in this one fully. Either case, both make a case for treating this moment as if it was sacred, and then leave the rest. Thank you, existential. Mascarenhas is our nature or true self emptiness? Yes, but don't look at that conceptually. Buddha, the word in Sanskrit is shunyata. And it's a beautiful word because while it's translated literally in English as emptiness, in its true definition, it's a pregnant emptiness. It's not a nothingness. And I think a good example of it that I've used before is, imagine you're talking to someone, you're having a conversation with somebody. And it's not like a job interview or something, or a first date, right? Where you're watching everything you say and looking for cues. It's a friendship that's been around for a while. So it's the conversation that you're having is just flowing, right? Just very natural. Now, just notice that while you're listening to the other person talking, because it's friendly, you're not just thinking about what you're going to say next, but there's a feeling inside of you, right? As you're talking, because it's a conversation. There's energy going back and forth, right? And they're saying something, and it moves something inside of you, and then it kind of the energy kind of shifts around, and you're going to say something now, and notice that you know what you're going to say, even though not a single word has been formed. It's just like this feeling, right? And yet until the words come out of your mouth in time, right? That form is empty. There's something there, but it has no form. It's a very subtle, pregnant emptiness. We experience it all the time. All the time. Try to look for the place where a thought comes from, and you'll find just emptiness. And yet the entire universe arises out of it. So it's not a nothingness. The emptiness, or another Buddhist term would be no self, right? There's nothing there. It's just nothing fixed there. I am not fixed in a personhood, right? Because if I am, then I'm limited. I'm stuck with it. There's nothing I can do. If this is what I am, and I am this person, growth isn't possible. Evolution isn't. You couldn't, self-help, waste of time, because you can't change, right? You're fixed. But this is what we get. We get like this sense that I'm fixed. And emptiness or no self says, no, you're not. You're nothing inherently. You're no one in particular. Your true nature is the infinitude of emptiness. And that infinitude is the infinite potential for absolutely everything. So when you're having that conversation with a friend, you can, everything you're going to say is already there. It's in completeness, but it isn't manifest until it unfolds in words. And yet it's there. Right? That's the true emptiness, the pregnant emptiness, the divine emptiness, the emptiness that is totally full. This is the mother goddess, right? That kind of the womb of Buddhas, which was literally the term they used in the Heart Sutra. That Prajnaparamita, the ultimate wisdom, was the womb of all Buddhas. Just beautiful. Ella, yes. And it also takes love to see that immaculate you. Yes, it does. Love and humor. Awake, not woke. That's good. That's good. I'm awake. I'm not woke. I like that. You would look great in white dreadlocks. You think so? I don't know. Maybe I'll try it. That would be funny. Hey, my teacher's got, but he's still got black. He still has his black hair. He's got long dreads he's had forever, but he's from Jamaica. He's supposed to. Merck, if you begin to realize how even the fundamentals is created, then where does that leave all our other less grand reality pacifiers you rely upon to explain away one thing in terms of another? Suddenly, this solid and secure rock we're supposedly standing on is not looking that rock solid anymore, I have to say. But then you remember that it's not actually not solid either. And then the thought gets all tied up in endless knots and goes on rants yet again. I'll go back to the introduction. When that starts happening, know that the mind is trying to control the process and just, do something else. Let it go. Right. Or just sit quietly and watch it. Don't try to figure anything out. There's a reason why Papa G said all the time, just be quiet, right? Times like that, just be quiet. When you feel that impulse, I got to figure it out. How can you possibly figure out it exists and does not exist? What? It's beyond what the mind can do, because it's got to be one or the other, right? But reality is beyond the four possibilities. Neither this, nor that, nor both, nor neither. Well, now what do I do? It's a koan, right? But that's you, isn't it? Right? You know that you are, right? But not as anything in particular. Like a character in a movie, right? We can all talk about that character. We can have long conversations about all the characters in Star Wars, and people do, right? Or the favorite or movie you saw the other night, and yet. So they exist and they don't exist. They exist within the realm of imagination and possibility. They don't exist in any kind of concrete reality. Nothing exists as a concrete objective reality. Nothing. Only you. And so you can't say that you exist if by that you mean I'm a thing, right? I'm this box, I'm a cup, I'm a person. You can't say that. Then you'd have to say, no, I don't exist as that. I just am, but not as something in particular. And of course, you can't conceive of that because we can only conceive of forms, and I'm formless. And then the mind goes, how do I do it? And you just can't, that's when you go, just be quiet. Just, I can feel the truth in it, and I'm just going to stay there. I don't have to figure it all out or articulate it or be able to come up with pointers about it. I'm just, something inside me knows it's true. So I'm just going to be with that. Very gentle, very gentle. And it'll take all the heaviness off. Oh God, thank God. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And just, you know, I say that please don't let the mind say, oh God, you're right. G said I'm going to take it easy now. It's like, no. You see how the mind will, like, you know, it'll start beating you up for beating yourself up, right? It's just put a big ass smile on your face, give it a big chuckle and say, there I go again, right? And when you are engaged in the clarity, right, and you are seeing, and the inquiry is happening, it's exhilarating, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, right? If then it starts heading south, you know that the mind's trying to take control over it and make it more conceptual than experiential, and that's when you go, thank you, I don't need you right now. Just kind of go back into that place of allowing. Just it's like the famous koan, which came from an event that took place when Buddha got up in front of a lot of people. I mean, he had thousands and thousands of followers that he had attracted over his lifetime. So he was in front of this huge crowd to get up to give one of his sermons. You know, people have come from a long way. And he got up, he picked up a flower and he held it up. And he looked around. One guy, Kajapa, yeah, got this big ass smile on his face. And Buddha smiled back. He's the only one that got it. Just this. Just the flower. Didn't even need a name. Didn't need a word. Didn't need a description. Didn't need an analysis. Oh, just this. I don't need to talk about this. I have this. Sure, a lot of people wanted their money back. I was ripped off. But you get it. Sometimes just like, right, it's just the flower. It's just Buddha holding a flower. Daniel Bombastic, how to stop feeling like the personal doer and decider. Don't try. Don't turn it into a quest. It becomes a matter of just really being so interested, right? Not in the result. Okay, I'm going to stop being a doer now. Because that's a doing, isn't it? You see how the mind just gets itself twisted up in knots. But instead, look. Start exploring, looking deeply. Okay. When something happens, there's a whole series of events that takes place. Right? I'm not doing anything at all. Then suddenly a thought comes up. That thought gets attention. It begins to collect some energy, and then an action takes place. Right? And somewhere along the line, a thought comes and says, I'm doing that. But that came later. Look at the process itself, everything that happened. The initial thought or feeling that arose that then cascaded and became an action and a doing, even an elaborate one, right? Did anybody do that thought? I mean, really look. Did you do that thought? Can you find yourself there making the thought? Or it just happened? And it gained energy, it gained attention, right? It gained interest. And all of a sudden there's action and stuff going on. But there was no doer in the beginning, was there? Wow, there isn't. And then you see that the idea that I did that is just a conventional way of thinking. And it's not really what's happening. And it's okay. I can say, I did this. I set up the lights. I set up the microphone. I sat myself. Oh, this would be a nice place to do it. Right? I could say, I did that. But looking really carefully, I didn't really do it. It just kind of happened. And it happened was just within the field of my awareness. And this is manifestation. It's kind of like, your dream at night. You don't do the dream. It just happens. But you'll notice that there's just our habitual way of thinking is that there's got to be a doer there. So I'm just encouraging you to just kind of follow the process and see if you can actually find the doer. You can find the doing, right? You can find the acting out, the actions taking place. But like every flow of thought, can you find the thinker? Right? That is somebody controlling the thoughts or guiding them. They're just happening all by themselves. And you're the witness of them. And the witness of them isn't doing anything except witnessing, which isn't really a doing, is it? Right? Like being isn't a doing, right? I'm not doing being, right? I have to be there first to be able to do it. There's just things that are happening. Now, if you pick this up as an inquiry to really go into it, it's no longer about trying to stop being the decider or the doer. And you're engaging now in the kind of self-inquiry that dismantles the belief that there's a doer or a decider. And you're doing it in such a way that it'll sink in deep enough, it'll come with conviction. And then you realize you've never done anything. And if I've not done anything, it's just happening, then life is effortless. Well, how about that? Well, ain't that a kick in the pants? And that's the payoff. That's the reward. So don't try to stop doing. See the doer for what it is. Really probe this to the depth. Then it'll hit you here. It's like, right. I'm not doing anything. And it'll keep coming up because that's what happens, because it's a conventional way of thinking. But at some point, it won't matter anymore. You can say I'm doing, or you think I'm doing, but you'll also know that this isn't actually what's happening. Right? This is what I want you to understand. Not trying to start or stop or make something happen or go away. To really see what is actually happening, and then you see, oh. There isn't a doer. I don't have to stop being one. There never was one. I don't have to stop being the decider. There never was a decider. I just believed that there was. And now you're free of it. Thank you, Daniel. Leticia Papa. Hi, GP. Any advice on self-forgiveness and how to find that place, especially for younger people? I'm 24 and very stubborn, so I am fighting a lot with my mind. Any advice? Oh, lovely, lovely. Well, don't fight with yourself for fighting with the mind, right? And don't be so quick to identify yourself as stubborn, right? Because, the moment I say I'm stubborn, right, or I assign any kind of quality or attribute to myself, I kind of take it on, and then I start seeing the world through those eyes. Right? Stubborn can also have a positive aspect to it. That's kind of the negative aspect of the quality of being resolute or focused. Right? At what point does it become stubborn? What point is it just kind of resolved, has conviction? You can see there's just this incredible beautiful continuum of gradation, right? So just drop that. You have certain kinds of characteristics that other people have labeled stubborn, and you took it on as your own, right? And said, okay, I'm stubborn, I guess. No, you're not. You're not. You are a unique and beautiful kaleidoscope of a whole bunch of different attributes. We don't have to label any of them. So let yourself off the hook on that. It's okay to be wisely tenacious, right? It's even important if you're doing the kind of inner work that we do here. And so if you do that, then you'll notice that somewhere along the line, you got the idea that you are going to be better off if you could make the goddamn mind just be quiet or behave or think the way I want it to think. Right? What you've done is you've created the mind as this entity, this demonic, nasty little entity, and you're fighting with it. Right? The first thing you do is just stop fighting. The more you fight with it, the stronger it gets, because it is sustained by attention. You can be positive attention or negative attention. It doesn't care. It's all food, right? It'll lap it up. Spicy food, sweet food. It doesn't care, right? So it's just like the impulse to fight with it, right? You start by going, oh, it doesn't actually work. And you might find yourself in the fight, but the moment you do, you go, oh, wait, this isn't going to work. And you'll feel there's an energetic habit going on that really wants to engage. If you become more and more aware of that, you just kind of breathe, breathe. Thoughts, these aggressive thoughts are coming. Tough thoughts are coming. Just breathe. Okay, I'm choosing consciously to not engage on that level. I've got a lot of meditations and videos that I always start out, every one of my classes, I start out with just going to this place of just allowing. I call it the yoga of allowing. And starting to become reconciled with your feelings rather than fighting them. I don't want to feel this way, but you do feel that way. So just, okay, I feel this way. And I'd rather not feel this way. I don't really want to feel this way. And let that be there too, right? Because it's all just feeling, right? It's all just feeling that's happening, right? And now practice that. You just practice it. It is a practice because we get habituated. You know, we get an idea that somehow I'm supposed to make my mind be quiet. And then I work really hard because you're not stubborn, but you are tenacious, obviously, at trying to make it be quiet. And it's not being quiet. I must be doing something wrong. No. No, you're fighting it is what's making it fight. Right? It takes two to have an argument, right? If somebody drops out, this happens. And eventually goes, nothing to do. Just something like that. Even if you're following me right now, you may find your mind has gotten a little quieter, or at least maybe the body's not so tense now because it's not in its defense mode. And the other more subtle part of it is that the mind isn't a thing. It is just a flow of thoughts. When we think of it as a thing, now we've created in our imagination an entity that's fighting us. Right? There is no entity fighting you. If you believe there is, you're going to be you're fighting with a ghost, right? There's nothing there. You're trying to strangle a puppet, a hand puppet. It's not going to care. Yeah, do whatever, right? So, there's not actually a mind there. There's only a particular flow of thoughts. And I don't really like this flow of thoughts, but I'm just going to allow them to be there without fighting them. Just watch and see what happens. If I drop out of the argument, what happens? And then just watch and pay attention to what happens inside in the body. You'll notice that it'll just kind of go, because it's like this, right? But if I don't have to fight anymore, I can just do this. Breathe, allow, breathe, allow. It's a practice, but it's a very natural one. So it's not a practice that takes a long time to get the hang of, because you're actually simply dropping habits that were laid on. And your natural state is that of allowing awareness. Does that help, Letitia? Does that help? Lovely, 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 lovely. Peter in Italy. I'm late because last night, yep, 1 hour back. You didn't get my email. Much love. Thanks again, G, for another beautiful satsang. You didn't get my email. Open my emails. Dale, speaking of hair, didn't your hair chill the F out after many years? Yes, it has. Yeah, it has. It's not as, yeah. When I was a kid, maybe I'll show that picture again sometime. I picture when I was like 18 on acid, shortly before, not long before my night on the bridge. I was about the same time. I even been this right before that, and it was just, I mean, it was hard to put my hands through it. It was just, it was thick, it was dense, and it was just really, really curly. Like, this is straight compared to what it was. So yes, indeed, my hair has chilled. Has chilled over the years. It still responds if it's dry. It was much straighter when I was in New Mexico because the air was so dry. But up here in the Pacific Northwest, it's very moist. So I also had big hair when I was a kid, and I've been just keeping it really short ever since. Low maintenance keeps me chill. Well, I don't maintain it a lot. But I don't know. I just kind of like getting long. And people said, no, you should get your haircut at your age. And it's my younger son said, yeah, well, do whatever you want, Dad. Mary, your description of the absolute, as well as you described, just took a lot of the sting about life for me away. Oh, beautiful. Wow. Beautiful. Yeah, because you're not going to be able to know it in any, it's just like, oh, I am it. Oh my God, I am it. That's it. That's it. There's no great, this is it. Right. Boom. Oh, all the trying to get it, right? It's really not getting it. It's just allowing it. Allowing grace to have its way. And it just opens up all the doors. All of this is just it. And our conceptual knowing of it is useful, but I don't need to know it in order to experience it. Just like the cat, just like the animals, just like children, they experience it all and they don't have words for it. They don't know it in that sense. They know it in the biblical sense. I really know it. Thank you, Mary. Jenny, will everyone experience a pre-awakening set time? No, there's no set time. Right? You could say, is it... I mean, if there is, right? No, you're not going to know it. So it's like, nah. It's like, how about now? Everybody's preset awakening time will be now at some point. It's going to be now, right? It won't be something, and it won't be something that happens. It's the world's greatest non-event. Oh, this is it. Oh, okay. I'm hungry. I think I'll have lunch. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It can be just kind of a non-event. Yes, we always hear the stories about the great, the angels parted and that was it and the like. But there wasn't that kind of a blissful euphoria in all the descriptions of Buddha's enlightenment. It was just, and he actually sat there. According to one of the stories, he sat there for 7 days after that, just taking it in. And then it said he got up and walked a bit away, turned around and sat down and looked at where he had been sitting for another 7 days. These are mythological numbers. And then he got back up again and sat down where he was before. It wasn't this, angels, it was this, it was such a deep seeing. And in that process, everything was just unfolding, just layers upon layers, all the lives and everything. And he was just kind of completely absorbed into it, to the point where he said, I can't teach this to anybody. It's too subtle. Right? It wasn't this great, blissful thing. It was just the most deep and quiet, like the appearance of the morning star. It was just kind of this, yes. And it is said that just all the beings from all dimensions, the hell beings, the devas, the heaven from all the levels of heaven came and entreated him to try, that there were people who would be open and be able to understand him. And he said, yes, okay, I will teach. And there was great rejoicing in heaven because the wheel of the Dharma once again had started to turn. So, yes, just right now. The awakening is right now. Be here. Be right here. Don't compare this moment to any other moment, past or future. And you're awake. Simple as that. Lazy man's path. Thank you, Lindsay. Oh no, that was Jenny. And then Lindsay, the reason I want to wake up is because it's unbearable having a constant monkey mind in extreme sadness. So for no reason, I will take the ups and downs any time. This is great. This is the reason we go to the effort of what effort there is of pursuing the awakening. In the process of pursuing it, we're overcoming all the old habits. We're seeing that it's not the same kind of effort, right? It's different. It's a probing, and it's quite enjoyable. It's a diving into a curiosity, right? It's a hungering to know, right? That eventually eclipses our initial feeling, which is I just want to get out of this suffering, right? As you begin to see what's causing the suffering, it becomes more value and more interest to you than even getting out of suffering. You begin to realize that suffering has been your friend. It has turned your attention towards the truth. It's like, bring it on. and at that point, everything that comes up, even the monkey mind, you go, oh, look at that, the monkey mind, right? I'm still experiencing the monkey mind. All right, well, let me experience the monkey mind. And who's experiencing it? And you'll find that even the resistance to it is a very subtle identification with it. Like there's something there I have to get rid of. If there's something that I have to get rid of, I've created an entity, an enmity, an enemy entity out of my imagination. There isn't one there. It's just a bunch of thoughts. All right, let them come. Let them come. It's cool. And there's an equanimity that starts to lose the suffering. The suffering is no longer, there's no resistance anymore. So even the difficult stuff doesn't create suffering. Right? There's the normal ups and downs and pains and joys of human life experienced fully, but the suffering becomes less and less and less and less. And the happiness becomes more and more and more and more. They dance together. Lifestyle love stories. Lisa. Hello, Lisa. Hello from Canada. Lisa, wondering if you could speak on the matter of how to be at peace when loved ones have mental illness. Thank you in advance. Well, I wish I would have known that when I experienced my mother's mental illness, but unfortunately I didn't, and I got the brunt of it. Well, first off, remember that whatever anybody's experiencing is the result of the unique causes and conditions, right? Nobody brought this on themselves. Nobody created it. Nobody chose it. It was not predestined, right? It wasn't necessarily random, right? Because it wasn't chaotic. It wasn't just the shaking of the dice. There was just this endless, this beginningless chain of causes and conditions that resulted in that. And then recognize that no matter what the condition is, mental, physical, emotional, no matter what it is, nothing can keep somebody from realizing who they really are. Because even in the mental illness that's very highly identified with, there is a consciousness that is aware of it that is not mentally ill. Now, knowing this, you create a presence for that one and a love. And simultaneously, though, you take your hands off. Right? You simply let that love and that seeing be an environment that will bring about as much as it can possibly bring something about. It's not a personal responsibility, other than always noticing in your own mind, are you confining that person by just saying they're mentally ill, right? Again, it's a continuum, right? There's some people completely dysfunctional, others that are just wacky a bit, right? Which is pretty much every creative person I know. A bit wacky, and some that aren't even that. It's a scale, isn't it? And since we don't really have a concrete definition of normal, we're all on that at some point, right? And so don't peg anybody there. Oh, this is the way our minds work. We get a picture of somebody and then we fix it as if we're not actually dealing with a dynamic functioning of life, right? So don't stick them anywhere, right? It can disappear in a split second, right? And again, we have no control, nor do we want to have any control over what somebody experiences. And whatever that experience is, grace can turn it into an auspicious event. Right? And so you just be the grace and then leave them to God. That's always the answer, right? Love them and leave them to God at the bare minimum. It's not hard to do. That means there's no judgment, right? Their experience is their experience, and it's there for a reason, right? Whatever it might be. And so you just love them. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. David and a beautiful answer, G. How liberating to transcend the point where the need to describe the indescribable dissolves. Pure, non-objective knowing and undifferentiated being is all, and we are that. Yes, 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 yes. The self is forever describing itself. That's what we know of the universe. The infinite nature of the indescribable self is absolutely everything unfolding over infinite time. And it will take infinite time to give expression to the inexhaustible essence that you are. And our experience of it is as myself. I am that. Beautiful. Existential dread. Thank you, GP, for your answer to my question. Oh, you're very welcome. Ella, oh my God, yes, absolute pregnant emptiness, or as I see it, darkness is pregnant with light. Yes, the womb of being is dark, isn't it? The womb of where we all originated, even our human lives, was dark, wasn't it? It's the goddess. It's the goddess. It's the most wondrous, most wondrous. Ava, I came here exhausted because of no sleeping the whole night, and at day I also couldn't sleep at all. The more I wanted to, the more I couldn't. And this satsang, a bit different from others, is for me so soothing and relaxing. I feel completely refreshed. Thank you. Thank you for your presence. What a gift it is. Thank you, Ava. Lamont Stewart, hi from St. Louis. Go, or maybe GP or go. Oh. Hello, Lamont. Wonderful. Rosario, thank you, GP, for the satsang. For the satsang for You Are Tired. Oh, my love. Your ability, Mark, your ability to speak so eloquently with great clarity, despite having such a difficult hair day, is a great blessing to us all. Yeah, eloquence, being articulate. Again, there's no doer of it, right? The thoughts just come. I say what comes. Yeah. Is it eloquent? I just say what comes. Yes, the self is eloquent. I mean, what could be more eloquent than this tree behind me? Right? I wish it could come into focus. It can't. Or a squirrel running across a telephone line. What could be more eloquent than that? Just the putting of words together to point towards a truth is wondrous, but life itself, my God. Look at the bounty that's behind me. The language of God is an eloquence that is just unfathomable. Unfathomable. Mascarenas, what about thoughts you think purposely? Look closely. The thought, I thought that purposely, came after the thought, didn't it? Maybe even a couple of thoughts down the line. You didn't think it purposely. That was an idea projected on the flow of thoughts later. Because you wouldn't be able to think that if the thinking hadn't already happened. Just look really closely yourself so you become convinced of it. So it's not just an idea that I'm giving you, right? I'm giving you this idea because I've looked. I'm like, wow, look at that. It's just happening. It's just appearing. I can't find anyone thinking it. Even the sense of purposeful thinking is just another thought. It's just another thing that's happening. It's the way the thoughts happen to have lined up. Right? Is it really purposeful? And if it is purposeful, and there are purposeful things. This is purposeful, right? Doing this for you all. Right? But am I doing it purposely? Or is it just the purpose is fulfilling itself? Just flowing out of it, the essence of its own being, that infinite emptiness that gives rise to everything. Again, look really carefully. Don't settle for an answer, even if a great sage, even if Raman or the Buddha tells you, right? Take it and go, okay, let me see it the way he sees it. Let me look for myself until I am convinced. One way or the other, I've disproven it. No, it's not true. I found me. I'm right there. Right? Can you find yourself other than a thought about yourself? Then you find that you're more than the thoughts, and that purpose is something that arises and is inherent in the flow of thoughts that are purposeful, and it isn't you with a purpose. Thank you for that. Mascarenas. Eva, yes, really, there is no doer. Everything just happens. What a release. And thank you, GP. And thanks to the questioner, Daniel Bombastic. SLC Vegan, what if a teacher gives bad advice about an inquiry? It happens. Well, the good news is the only way you find out it's bad advice is if you get closer to the truth and recognize it as bad advice. And frankly, there's a lot of bad advice, right? We live in a glut of information in which there is a ton of bad advice on any subject imaginable. Pick any subject, non-duality notwithstanding, but finances and nutrition and health and relationship. There is so much bad advice, which is why I say, do not believe a word I say, take it for yourself. If something inside resonates with it, give it your attention, but never give away your authority, right? So that even if it turns out to be bad advice, it won't because you just followed blindly somebody else, that you took it, you thought about it, it seemed good, and then it wasn't. This is the way life works anyway, right? We're not going to be able to avoid, tripping over our own feet. We're not going to be able to avoid it. And so we have to have the courage to do it, but also take the personal responsibility and authority to weigh and measure it yourself and go, this doesn't feel right. Okay, so I'm not going to follow it just because he's a guru or he occupies some, he's got fame or has 10 million followers on YouTube. Don't take that. Just go, okay, this sounds reasonable, so I'm gonna work it through. I'm gonna look through myself. So you always remain the authority in your own life, and then you won't be suffering from bad advice, right? You'll make mistakes. You'll experience the consequences and going, what? Oh my God, what was I thinking? But the truth of the matter is that oftentimes you won't know that until you do it and taste the fruit. And oh God, that was not smart. I have lots of those. And that's how you see. Sometimes you can't avoid it, right? You can't have a prescription like, the 10 Commandments until you actually break them and see the consequences of it. They're just a bunch of rules that should be broken. Okay? The only rules that shouldn't be broken are the ones that you discover for yourself, and that the consequences are real. And then that's when the law is written on your heart. And that's why Christ said, love is the fulfilling of the law. If you do that, you don't need the commandments. Nobody doesn't have to tell you, right, not to lie. You just won't do it because you see the pain that it causes to yourself and others. Now it's pure love, which fulfills all of the laws. Let's see. Awake, not woke. I am running out of time. Let's see here. Yes, it helped a lot, says Latita. Yvonne, thank you so much for these fantastic videos. Keep them coming, please. God bless you. I'll keep them coming as long as I can. I do have a Patreon account. It's in the, if you guys want to help me out, which special thanks has to go out. I have to send him a mail. Somebody made a very nice, sizable donation. Oof, boy, does it help. Because I run this on a shoestring. So wake not woke, who gives attention to the mind? Is it consciousness, or is it the I attending to its own narrative? It's a great question, and start simply by noticing that there is an attention being given to the mind, right? I think you had the question before about fighting with it, right? Was that you? Back there somewhere. I can't remember now. But anyway, so when you say who gives attention to the mind, just notice that you are there, and that you are the consciousness, because obviously it's all appearing to you. So consciousness is not a thing like it's appearing to consciousness. Well, it's appearing to you, right? You and consciousness, same thing, right? You are consciously aware of it. And you're aware of the mind, and you're aware of what the mind is doing. And you're also aware of that impulse to give it attention, to get into an argument or criticize it or something, right? You're aware of all of it. And just keep your attention on that conscious awareness, right? Because that's what's most important, right? From that place, it becomes possible to establish a different relationship with the mind, which by in doing that, attention automatically begins to go elsewhere. It loses interest. The focus of attention is what we have to be, is what determines the sum total of the quality of our experience. What's driving attention is our beliefs. And the deepest belief at all, the mother of all beliefs, is the sense of identity, that sense of I, right? But even that sense of I, you realize, is really constructed of a bunch of thoughts. So the thought of I, the functioning of I, the identity, right, is all being witnessed by you, right, which are something other than that I. And now the practice is simply becoming more and more subtle and more convicted, have the inner resolve, the inner stubbornness, you might say, of just being and noticing how you get sucked back as a reflex. You don't even you find yourself in the middle of being identified with it again, and how the hell did that happen? But the moment you see that, you're awake, not woke. Right? You woke back up. Oh, I fell asleep for a second. Okay, I'm back, and I'm watching it. And the more that happens, the more you'll abide there. You'll settle there, right? And this stuff will be less and less influential. Attention begins to loosen up. It doesn't keep going back to the same place. It begins to kind of defocus, take more in, and you'll just have more of an experience of just equanimity, and stuff's happening. It's okay. Wonderful. So thank you. Awake Not Woke. Scott, what kind of bass did I see in the background on last videos? Scott, Baltimore bassist. Where was I? Oh, you saw some of the, right. That's when I was living in New York, and my roommate, Evan, who is also my senior facilitator, he's doing his own thing now. You may see videos of his here. He's really good. He's also a world-class jazz bass player. So he had a bass on the wall. He's got stand-up, and there's a picture of John Coltrane, and there was like 3 or 4 basses around there. So that's that particular one. I don't remember what it was. He didn't play that one very much. He had a Fender. He had can't remember that odd one that didn't really have a head on it. He had a fretless. He had a stand-up. Different ones. It got a lot of work because he could do stand-up and electric equally well. It's very versatile. So that's where that came from. Mary, basically just stop trying to control life. Yes. And stop trying to control yourself. Because I say, just stop trying to control life. You're trying to control yourself. Become aware of the process by which we try to hold on to life. That's it. The more aware you are of it, the less it's going to happen. Merck, more conceptual information seems to be mind-like comfort is to the mind like comfort to the body. And that it's nice and all, but highly addictive and demanding. Having it 24/7 is not actually doing your health any good. No, it's not. Thank you and good night. See you in another time zone. Yes, next week we fall back. Right. So yes, the mind is insatiable for information. The body, once it gets enough food, it's good. Right? I'm good. I don't need more. Thank you. I'm full. The mind doesn't have that. The mind doesn't say I'm full. Consciousness does. Okay, you've had enough. You really have had enough. Don't make a pig of yourself. Brent Fresh, very well said. David and Elaine. And David Yeager, the dark night of self-revelation nails it again. Thanks, GP. Thank you, David. David and Elaine at Brent, Ava, great satsang. Renek, how does one make a one-time contribution? Thanks, GP. I do actually have that. Do I have that on my site? Email me at support at gpwalsh.com and I can figure something out. I don't think on Patreon you can make a one-time, but if you like make the one-time and then cancel it, you can do it that way. But I think I have another way of doing it. I used to, but I think it might have expired or something. So just send me an email, and myself or one of the people who has volunteered to help me will get back to help you out on that. Thank you. Oh God, it's so helpful. It's so helpful. Awake Not Woke. Thanks, GP. You're welcome. Awake Not Woke. All right. Well, I was actually wanting to end early, but that never happens. So I'm going to go do my hair. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love you all. Namaste.